Reportedly, Syrian mercenaries are being offered a few $100s to take part in this war. Do you expect large numbers of people to take Russia up on that offer?
Well, judging by previous such experiences in Libya, you're talking perhaps maybe hundreds of people. This is exactly what happened in Libya several years ago. Some hundreds Syrians have flown from Syria into Libya. There are a lot of unanswered questions here about exactly what impact this will have, how this is going to go, and so forth. How effective will these fighters be? But it shows you that Putin is basically throwing everything he can at Ukraine.
And how would Syrian fighters help turn the tide in Ukraine? I mean, they don't speak the language, they don't know the terrain. What would they offer?
I mean, that's a great question. It's unclear exactly what they're going to bring to the fight. Precisely as you outlined, it's unclear if they have an understanding of Ukraine, how much they really know about it. Presumably somebody could prepare them, but having said that, that's very different than actually knowing the country as Russians themselves do. So now, look, it's also possible that they may be involved in specific clandestine operations. There's just a lot of unanswered questions here.
A lot of comparisons have been drawn over the past 2 weeks, or just under 2 weeks, between the bombing of Aleppo and the bombing of Ukrainian cities. Some people say that Syria was a kind of training ground for the Russian army. Would you agree with that?
I would. In fact, I was one of the people who made this very same comparison. What worried me starting from last Friday, especially when Russia and Ukraine discussed the first humanitarian corridor, is that we may precisely see a major city in Ukraine be turned into another Aleppo or Grozny. Yes, Syria was indeed a very important training operation, essentially, for the Russian military. And in fact, the senior Russian officials like Valery Gerasimov, the General Chief of Staff, pretty much have directly spoken about it.
And what is the strategy there? It appears to be, analysts say that it appears to be the deliberate targeting of civilians in order to terrorize them and get them to surrender, essentially. Is that what's happening?
Basically, in a word, yes. This is a sort of a time-tested Russian method of terrorizing the population into submission, breaking down its morale, and that's exactly what we saw happen time and time again in Syria. We saw it in Chechnya as well. So now the question is whether or not there's still a lot of unanswered questions about how the Ukraine invasion is going to work out. Certainly, I personally don't believe that Putin can ever destroy the Ukrainian identity. There's too much history there. This is different from Syria, and so forth. But the demoralizing aspect of it, again, simply being unable to take over by other means, as Putin thought he would. This is the method that they're resorting to.
And what does this tell us about how the Russian invasion is going? If Putin is desperate to recruit people in Syria, it would suggest it's not going as planned.
Well, it's definitely not going as planned, and he understood, I think, a while ago, last week, that this is not the way it was supposed to go. That's why you could also see Russian forces recalibrating. And what was troubling about that is that, yes, they clearly miscalculated, but they also recalibrated in a very systematic way. You could see attacks on 4 fronts in Ukraine last week. So this was also, the recalibration was not haphazard, which suggests that they did have plans if it did not work out.